This used to be this. This used to be this. Communities all over Kenya are transforming land into a long-term economic venture. From this to this, this to this, and this to this, and there is hope that this land will soon be this. There is excitement in the air. Lives are changing for the better.
Samani kama we naona hapa hii shamba kila mara yote ni mtaro, maji naenda, maji inatiririka. Wakati nakata kichaka mimi hawezi choma, mimi naweka tu. Sasa kama mimi natengeneza mchanga nakaa. Sasa kama ukulima kama mimi, kama shamba yake natengeneza kama hii, napata faida kubwa sana.
About 80% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid lands, commonly referred to as ASAL. About 20% of the human and 50% of the livestock populations are found here.
Such lands are very vulnerable to erosion and are very fragile, and any over-exploitation of such resource could actually lead to irreversible impacts.
In addition to being a source of economic accumulation and a means through which to access a variety of resources, land also has symbolic, cultural and historical importance. Thus, pressure on land, particularly productive land, if not well checked, can be a cause of conflict, and hundreds of thousands have been displaced from their land due to it.
Our forefathers shed blood for land. We will do so.
The history of land management dates back to the pre-colonial period, which marked the epitome of environmental degradation. During this period, land resource management in the interior of Kenya depended very much on whether a group was agrarian or pastoral. The agrarian communities tilled the land for crop production, while pastoralists, on the other hand, lived wholly on milk, blood and flesh. Both the agrarian and pastoral societies left large tracts of land for resource management purposes. There was no policy or law designed for environmental management during this time apart from the Indian Lands Acquisition Act in 1894. This act had no impact on land conservation. In addition, there was no comprehensive legislation dealing with the management of natural resources. This changed significantly in the colonial era, when rulers constituted laws on land acquisition and use, mostly for their own benefit and depriving Africans of what was rightfully theirs. The Crown Lands Ordinance of 1902 and 1915, the Native Lands, Trust Lands Ordinance of 1938 and Crown Lands Ordinance of 1938, among others, not only led to the forceful acquisition of productive land from the African people for exclusive use by the white farmers, but also improved land reservation process given the increased forest areas that were under government control. The colonial contribution to forestry slowed down the forces of destruction, both real and perceived. During the post-colonial era, the introduction of farming systems suited to high potential areas in the arid and semi-arid regions contributed to more environmental degradation. Wetlands that were often the strategic pasture lands for pastoralists during the dry periods were taken up for crop cultivation by agriculturists. This trend made pastoralists and their livestock vulnerable to famine, and other environmental disasters continued in the regimes of the successive governments after independence. Indeed, the period under the Kenyatta administration between 1963 and 1978 saw a proliferation of the enactment of a wide range of natural resource-related laws such as the Agriculture Act Cap 318, the Forests Act Cap 385, and Water Act Cap 372, 1972. With such efforts, the Kenyatta administration tried to coordinate and implement crucial laws that would make land more economical and beneficial to all. The Moi administration between 1978 and 2001 epitomized the consolidation of some of these laws as well as the creation of specialized bodies to deal with special interests in the management of natural resources. Many regional development authorities were created, such as the Lake Victoria Basin Development Authority, the Kerio Valley Development, and the Coast Development Authority. These authorities focused on the development of natural resources within their jurisdictions. However, recent studies indicate that some of them are inefficient, while others could benefit tremendously if they coordinated their activities with neighboring authorities. Many other laws were also created, such as the Pest Control Products, the Lakes and Rivers Act, the Government Lands Act, the Kenya Wildlife Conservation and Management Act, Presidential Commission on Soil Conservation and Afforestation, and Presidential Commission on Drought Monitoring and Relief. It has also been observed that some of the projects undertaken by these authorities do not make economic sense, and some are injurious to the natural environment and sustainable land management. The period of Mwai Kibaki's presidency from 2002 to 2013 saw the enactment of the new Constitution of Kenya, in which land and environment is enshrined in Chapter 5. Before that, the government had pushed for passing of several laws and acts, all aimed at helping cushion the environment against adverse climate change and solving unproductive land issues. Such efforts gave birth to the National Climate Change Response Strategy and the development of a master plan for the conservation of water catchment areas in the country followed. This later culminated in the signing of 3 bills into law. These bills are the National Land Commission Act 2012, the Land Act 2012, and the Land Registration Act of 2012. The National Land Commission Act establishes the National Land Commission as outlined in the Constitution and in the National Land Policy. With regard to the Land Act, the law provides for sustainable administration and management of land and land-based resources. All these done with a view to urge all Kenyans to embrace the concept of the green economy in the protection of the country's environment. The current administration too has not been left out in matters of land management. President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced interventions that the government will apply to address rampant forest destruction. These include the creation and strengthening of forest conservation committees and community forest associations to instill a sense of ownership and education on the long-term benefits to all. The structures being put in place will ensure participatory and sustainable management of forest resources as an important aspect in reducing conflicts among communities. Another program, whose theme is Green Schools and Commercial Tree Growing for a Green Economy, has been initiated in schools and will demonstrate simple technological interventions for sustainable forest protection. Also on course is a comprehensive wall-to-wall forest resource assessment that will be followed by a massive campaign for all Kenyans to plant trees, manage land well, and produce more and eliminate food insecurity.
Sustainable land management is a very important activity within Kenya, and in fact is enshrined in Chapter 5 of the Constitution, which requires that the land be managed in an efficient, productive, and sustainable manner.
Sustainable land management includes the management of soil, water, vegetation, and animal resources. Poorly managed land use and land conflicts are the main threats to sustainable land management in the arable lands, arid and semi-arid regions in Kenya.
Hii msitu yetu alikuwa imeharibu kabisa. Hata hapa alikuwa na mandaragwa mingi. Tulikuwa tunatoa mbao hapa. Hiyo ingine imekwisha shauri, hii maji yanaenda speed. Hajawezi kumea wakati ananyesha hapa ni kiangazi tu.
The absence of good land management will result in badly managed land and eventually into land degradation, and land will lose its worth. Different land degradation problems occur depending on the types of land use. In arid and semi-arid lands, ASALs, degradation is characterized by fragile ecosystems which are subject to massive degradation resulting from improper use.
Hiyo mlima yetu unateremsha maji zaidi. Maji kuteremuka unafagia kila kitu hapa. Kaona hiyo mbolea haiwezi kuwa tena hapa. Kasema wacha tu niweke mtaro kukata mtaro. Hiyo maji kuteremuka kulima kutoka mlima, hiyo mtaro unasuia sasa kila kitu. Hapana tena hiyo maji naenda na hiyo mbolea.
When the land become degraded, the production capacity of land usually becomes very low. The pasture or the forage for the livestock becomes very minimal. So generally there is the decrease in the production of the livestock in form of meat, in form of milk.
Degradation is largely driven by inappropriate land use such as unsuitable farming practices, overstocking of livestock, deforestation, high population growth, encroachment of agriculture and marginal land, burning of fields before planting, overgrazing, overuse of water resources, and an increase on demand for firewood, charcoal, and timber. The havoc that improper land use wreaks has not only affected community livelihoods but also continues to contribute to global warming and can also exterminate some species of plants and animals.
Tulikuwa tumekatakata huko chini. Mtu anakuwa na eka 30. Muguru ikilinga katikati anagawa mara ngapi? Na ile shamba itaenda pande ile nyingine itaenda pande nyingine. Na hiyo ni hasara moja.
But all is not gloom. Through the UNDP's mainstreaming of sustainable land management project, communities are slowly combating land degradation.
Mainstreaming sustainable land management is a pilot project that is implemented in four counties. The project is implemented in Mbeere North, which is part of Embu County, in Chuso, part of Kitui County. It's also implemented in Narok, the Narok County, and in Dadaab, which is Garissa County.
Hii mradi ya ASALM ilitupeleka tour mahali, tukaenda tukaona huko vile wametengeneza mashamba yao kwa ajili ya hizo mitaro, na wakaona hata sisi ni mzuri tuaje kuchimba mitaro kama wale. Hii mitaro itatusaidia kupata mazao mingi na tena mazao bora, kwa vile itazuia yale maji yalikuwa yakielekea kwa mto, sasa itakuwa imesimama na shamba letu itakuwa imesimamisha ule mchanga wenye rotuba. Kwa hivyo hata ukiweka mbolea yako haitakuwa inapepa na maji.
Urandi wa manjiko tuliesomeshwa kuunda manjiko tukiwa katika trainee, tulikuwa tumeitwa na watu wa livestock and agriculture. Sasa nikaanza kutengeneza, na kwangu nyumbani niko na kilei nzuri ya kutengeneza hii manjiko. Hii maendeleo njiko inatumia kuni mbili tukifananisha na zile za kienyeji. Kienyeji huwa tunatumia kama kuni 15.
The Sustainable Land Management Project continues to seek to work well with communities all over Kenya and is investing in soil and water conservation techniques whereby lessons learned from this form policy applications.
The policies which are there for agriculture, the policies which are there for food security, the policies which are there for wildlife management, livestock production, all these policies lead to sustainable land management. So there isn't a single policy for sustainable land management.
For decades, Suswa area of Narok has served as an important rangeland with rich wildlife species and a haven for pastoral production. However, in recent years, the community watched helplessly as their land wasted away due to unrelenting gully erosion. The Suswa area has sharp gradient and volcanic ash soils, and being bare due to overuse and loss of grass cover, the area becomes vulnerable to heavy erosion during the rainy seasons, leading to formation of gullies. But today there is a sigh of relief due to interventions of the mainstreaming Sustainable Land Management in Agro-Pastoral Production System of Kenya project, which is funded by the Global Environment Facility GEF, United Nations Development Programme UNDP, and the Government of Kenya through the Ministry of Livestock Development.
So ukipima futi 3 utakuwa sasa unapima upana wako na hii njebe ambao
The project is in the process of rehabilitating the gullies in a bid to restore ecological balance and enhance livelihood resilience. Hundreds of the Maasai community are involved into the various activities which include digging of semicircular bunds, retention ditches and water pan.
This project has managed to rehabilitate quite a number of hectares. In terms, I can say if an average of now it should be over 80 hectares of land has been rehabilitated. This project has been able to supply grass seeds to the farmers, and they have been able to plant the grasses. They have been able to bulk by harvesting.
Tulikuwa na shida mingi ya ufugaji wa ng'ombe. Ng'ombe zetu zilikuwa zinakosa nyasi. Tunahama tunapeleka ng'ombe zetu kutafutia nyasi, lakini tulipofundishwa na ASALM tuliletewa nyasi, tukapanda nyasi. Saa hii tuko na chakula mingi kabisa.
And as gullies are being successfully rehabilitated in Suswa, in Dadaab, the land encroachment is breathing a sigh of relief. Dadaab in Garissa County is the epicenter of refugee camps for the last 2 decades, and the once good-looking shrubland became in no time a desert and a home to speeding whirlwinds. And the disaster in making was real as trees became firewood and a source for putting up shelter within the camp. But there is hope that the one-time land filled with life through sustainable land management will get back its original form.
Mambo ya mbuzi imetusaidia. Mbuzi ako na maziwa imezaa, tunapata maziwa. Na mbeleni kwa mbuzi yetu haina hiyo maziwa. Tumepata mbegu mingi sana ya kupanda miti, na hiyo miti tutapata faida mingi sana. Ametuletea nyuki na nafikiri tunatarajia tutapata faida huko. Shamba pia ni hivyo, tumeweka mbegu mingi sana. Bahati mbaya mvua haina, lakini tukipata mvua tunafikiri tutapata faida mingi sana huko.
We have 3 project sites, namely Abakaile, Dertu and Alikune. We are implementing this project through what we call pastoral field schools. We have done over 1,500 acres of pasture reseeding. Apart from doing reseeding, we have also done afforestation within the household levels. And we have done afforestation in collaboration with the Kenya Forest Service. We have 3 Langstroth hives in Abakaile, and these ones are occupied. Then we have 3 more in Dertu and 3 more in Alikune.
The ASALM project has given rise to many new innovations that are proving worthwhile in combating land degradation, enhancing land conservation, and promoting agro-pastoral production across the country.
Hii ni nyumba ya kutengenezea makaa. Makaa imekuwa ni kitu ya dhamana kwa maana inaleta pesa kwa community, lakini kulingana na namna makaa inaendelea kuchomwa, tumekuja kuona kuna wakati makaa itaisha. Juu watu wanakata miti yote ili watoe makaa ambayo yanatakikana. Inaiva in 8 hours. 8 hours utakuwa umeweza kutoa gunia kama 10. Unatoa makaa mingi kwa miti michache.
There is quite a notable change For example, if we look at the Kiangombe Hill, initially it used to be encroached day in, day out. The burning has reduced, the encroachment has also reduced significantly, and this probably could be associated to the issue of the conservation of the springs that you are doing up there. The charcoal that they get from the kiln, it is of a higher quality than the traditional method, and this is earning them more extra income.
Charcoal is recognized to be a major commodity, and it is estimated to be having a turnover value of about 32 billion Kenya shillings, which compares very favorably with the tea and even horticulture. So if we are to promote the best practices on charcoal production, that is using the right tree species and using the right conversion methods, we anticipate that the value of charcoal trade is also likely to grow from the current estimates and make more contribution to our national economy.
For the last 2 years, the SLM project has been traversing the country intent on addressing different land degradation challenges affecting the populations in arid and semi-arid lands. They hope that the lessons learned in the 4 pilot sites will accelerate exchange programs that will turn deserts and eroded land into resourceful, long-lasting economic gains for the communities and the wildlife. And in this, they are not alone.
We have a program called Wildlife Pays. It's a consolation scheme providing or compensating Maasai livestock owners for losses due to predators. Initially, before this project started, we had on average 6 lions being killed a year here on the group ranch. Since that project started, we have only had an average of 1 lion being killed in a year. We have engaged warriors, Maasai warriors that used to kill lions. We have engaged them now in protecting lions.
Ilikuwa ni vigumu sisi kukubali kwamba simba ama fisi ni mnyama mzuri ama mwenye faida. Maanake tulikuwa tunaona tu akikula mbuzi, akikula ng'ombe, lakini ile muda the more tumeanza kuishi na wao, sasa ndio tukaanza kujua faida yao. Kwa sababu kitu ya kwanza walifanya, walianza kuajiri game scout. Na kidogo tukaanza kuona wakitoa scholarship kumsomesha mtoto ambaye alifanya vizuri katika darasa la 8.
There before this area did not have so much trees as I can see today. But today the environment has changed totally. The trees are beautifying it more. Also, the wild animals are now even coming near to us, that even now to teach a child, to tell a child to draw or to what a lion is, this child can tell you, because they are now friends of this environment.
Through the project, there has been growing awareness that productive lands are getting scarce and need more care. There exists best practices in sustainable land management aimed at reducing current land degradation, at the same time improving biodiversity and increasing resilience to climate change and variation.
Hii kikundi yetu inaitwa Kopiro Self Help Group. Tulikuja pamoja kwa sababu tulionelea tulime mashamba ndio tupate chakula ya kusaidia watoto. Na pia hii mambo ya mazingira na ni kuzuia mmomonyoko ya udongo, na pia area ambayo haina mamiti haikuangi hata na mvua, vumbi inakuwa mingi. Sasa sisi tuliongea tupande mamiti na tulime shamba. Kulima bora, ninaweka nyanya kwa wingi na kitunguu kwa wingi. Alafu sasa ikikomaa ninauza na ninaweka pesa ingine kwa account. Ingine nasomesha naye watoto na nanunua naye chakula.
Sisi kwa hii kikundi chetu tuko makabila tofauti tofauti, kama vile Waturkana, Waborana, Wasomali, pia Wameru na Wakikuyu tuko nao hapa. Na kwa maneno ya mazingira, tuliamua kila mama mwenye yako kwa kikundi aanze kwa plot yake. Plot yake mwenyewe apande miti 10 na hifadhi miti 10. Sasa vile tumejengewa kichinjio hapa, Sisi kama wafugaji, wakati wa kiangazi hizi mali inakonda sana kwa sababu ya kukosa malisho nzuri. Sasa hiyo kichinjio wanaweza chukua ng'ombe hata kama imekonda, wanaweza wakaichukua yote kwetu, waende wakauze na sisi tupate pesa. Kuliko vile tu unaweza kaa hivi tu kwa nini kiangazi ikuje ifanyie mali yako yote.
SLM is also enhancing capacities of communities in the pilot districts in terms of access to financial services. This is very essential because in the modern world, it's very important for communities to actually benefit from opportunities provided by banking and microfinance institutions. In this regard, the project has been able to bring together the farmer field schools with various financial institutions so that they learn on entrepreneurship, good bookkeeping, and saving skills.
Sustainable land management and agro-pastoral is a massive project involving many other stakeholders, innovators, and champions. The Kenya Agricultural Research Institute, KARI, carries out crop and livestock breeds improvements and has come out with successful exotic breeds. KARI also carries out research on soil management and water management geared towards improving crop production. It also does soil analysis, land use planning at landscape level, and provision of appropriate seeds for dry land farming. These research guard against pollution, especially of soils and water bodies.
We are promoting the best management practices, and one of them, for example, is agroforestry. It's very important because that way you are sustaining the soil fertility as well as the farmer to get some benefits out of these agroforestry, practices. The other one, especially in the agro-pastoral areas, and we are doing that in Narok, is water harvesting and utilization. Because the moment you do the water harvesting, like the Ngari we are rehabilitating in Narok, we have water pans. We are encouraging water pans which can harvest water which can be used by the local communities as well as conserving the environment.
Kenya Forestry Research Institute, KEFRI, has so far championed the degazettement of some forest land used for activities unrelated to forestry, such as the construction of urban infrastructure. Existing forests cannot supply all the wood fuel and timber required in Kenya. Therefore, there is a need for agroforestry in the cultivated areas. KEFRI also carries out research on trees, afforestation methods, and agroforestry practices that would lead to better sustainable land management beneficial to livelihoods.
We've been able to work with communities in Baringo area and also rest of the country to show communities how to manage prosopis. Prosopis has a lot of fruits that has seed embedded in them. And so one way of trying to control is that if communities can collect the pods and mill it in a machine, they're able to make a lot of products for livestock, at the same time control the spread of the species in areas where it's occurring.
In addition, Baringo Pasture Development, through rehabilitation of arid environment, has been working with the community to carefully manage land use with environmental sustainability as a goal. As part of this participatory approach, field management committees are elected from community members and given the mandate to regulate field use, such as whose livestock can graze on the fenced property and for how long, with advice from staff of rehabilitation of arid environment. RAE has recovered about 1,700 hectares of community land in this way, increasing biodiversity and halting soil erosion. Pastoralists from other parts of Kenya have travelled to Baringo to observe RAE's work and are duplicating the techniques on their own territories.
The flat areas, the bottom here by the lake, was completely bare and it was valueless. And it was only when we started operating and planting grass that it obtained a value in the mind of the people living there. And then they, through requests with us and working together with us, developed their own fodder plots, and the whole place has changed.
Clay is the active component of the soil.
Are we together?
Universities and other institutions of higher learning too have also not been left out in the land conservation efforts.
We are partnering with the Ministry of Agriculture through SRM. I think they have seen the need also to borrow expertise from universities and Kali. And we are heavily involved with those activities, especially in Narok and Kiso. The land in those areas are heavily degraded, and we need to come out with certain innovations, technologies to revert this kind of land degradation.
We have worked with the farmer field schools. In the 4 pilot districts, we have 3 farmer field schools in each site. And so far we have trained 405 members. And these farmers have had weekly training on various land management practices. This includes production of drought-resistant crops, water harvesting, post-harvest care for the crops.
When you train the farmers, they go and duplicate the same to their farms. So there is that multiplier effect of technologies which have been trained to the community or through the FRSs.
It's important for us to focus in the semi-arid and arid lands and make sure that there is a sustainable, and I use sustainable, land management. Post-harvest technologies is one. Water harvesting is another one. Irrigation facilities is another one. So there are many other things that we can bring from arid zones, the whole issues related to meeting the challenges of food security. So this is what we do. We really help in all these aspects.
Sustainable land management is getting pace. Kwale at the coast.
Tulipopata huu mradi wa kuku, tukaona tuachane na kukata makaa, tuendelee na mradi wa kuku. Tumeona vizuri upande wa mazingira kwa sababu miti imeanza kutoa majani vizuri. Anga tunaona sasa imekuwa tofauti, sio kama vile zamani.
West Pokot in the Great Rift Valley.
When we introduced beekeeping, we had in mind that the community should conserve the environment, and this is because of soil erosion is so rampant. So in beekeeping, they don't migrate, they have their beehives, the same place, and the people now are stable. They live in the same place always, and they have income, which is more reliable than animals. And our environment is safe because they plant more trees.
Amboseli National Park.
Kaja kaotesha majani, kafuna gunia 23. Kwa hiyo gunia 23 ndio imekuja kuuza 200,000. Wakati ilikuwa nauza hiyo, unanunua naye mbuzi, unakaa na hiyo mbuzi kwa hii boma, na hiyo kidogo ya kupata kwa hiyo vitu ilikuwa nauza, kanunua ng'ombe 10.
Dadaab in northeastern, Narok, Tana Delta, Isiolo, Marsabit, Kitui County, Mbeere. For these and many others, dreams are turning into reality and expectations into joy. From humanity to wildlife and trees, this can only be described as changing lives.